People often ask me, why are this group so successful? And the answer is really simple. It's because they see things from the perspective of the child. They approach things from the perspective of the child. Well, it started when they were students of early childhood education at Macquarie University. I was one of the lecturers in the school, and I lectured them in a few areas. And they were three, Greg Page, Murray Cook and Anthony Field were all there at the same time, all good students practically and theoretically. And after they began to perform as the Wiggles, and were just beginning to be successful, not huge as they are now, but beginning, I took grandchildren to one of their concerts, and Anthony asked me if I was still doing any work, and would I like to advise on some particular work that they were doing at the time, which I did, and it's really grown from that. The people in the museum and me as their early childhood advisor and my colleague Sue, we very much worked together to think about how we could use the early years learning framework, an Australian framework for early childhood. It was developed a couple of years ago. How we could link in with that so that all the learning experiences that children are invited to take part in the exhibition are on the same learning page, I suppose. So they talk about children becoming, having confidence in themselves. They talk about them being involved and confident learners. It talks about them developing skills of communication. So it's those sort of things that eventually, the sort of things we hope that adults will have acquired. It's a very gradual process, but we hope that the learning experiences within the museum are ones that will foster those eventual outcomes. I think children will get most out of it if the people who bring them allow them to lead the experience. Let the children engage in what interests them, because that will mean more to them rather than trying to focus them on everything. If you want to ask questions of children, make them nicely vague, questions to which there is no known answer. So it's better not to concentrate on questions of fact, which they can or cannot get right, but questions that encourage them to think, to imagine, to predict, to hypothesize, because they're the sort of questions that encourage children's processes of thought. Well, for example, in Anthony's area, which looks at the foundations of numeracy, I suppose, as much as anything else, it's not strict mathematical knowledge, but it's using some of the concepts of numeracy. For example, there is one where there are some apples and children are asked which is the largest, for example. So you're using, the child is very unlikely to get that wrong if they know what the word largest means, and most of them do. But there are opportunities for further questioning to which there is not a definite answer. In fact, a parent might say, I wonder how many apples could grow on an apple tree. Or, I wonder why apples come in different colours. Now, there is no right or wrong answer to that, but it encourages the children to think about it. I was asked to present the Wiggles point of view and the early childhood point of view, but particularly the perspective of the children as the Wiggles try to approach their work. For me, though, it's been interesting in that it wasn't open slather, in that Sue and I had to work within the constraints of the museum. The museum had materials they wanted to use, and together we tried to develop ways that were appropriate for early childhood, but that also fit in with what the museum wanted to present in the exhibition.